There's so many things that happen behind closed doors that we don't know about. And if I would not be a board member on the FNGLA, I would not know about this. The two featured individuals are representing Costa Farms, FNGLA, and Florida Farm Bureau. Two very powerful people. And if they're here speaking about this topic, you guys know it's for a reason. So in this episode, you're going to hear on how this came about, what is proposed in the current ordinance, how can this affect you, and what you can do today. You would think this heat ordinance is for employee safety only, but it's a lot more than that. I want you guys to listen to this episode, share this episode. We need the industry as a whole to wake up.
Are you ready to grow? The Plant Movement with Willie Rodriguez of A's Ornamental Nursery in sunny South Florida is the podcast for those in the nursery business. Garden centers, landscapers, power growers, and plant enthusiasts. Willie is a passionate leader in the plant movement and has helped others grow their business into multi-million-dollar companies. This show will save you time, money, and headaches through top-notch education and by connecting you to experts in the industry. Let's grow. Here's your host, Willie Rodriguez.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. Today's podcast is very important, and we have two very important individuals here, and they're going to be talking about everything that you need to know, whether you know about the heat ordinance or not. You're going to want to listen to this because they have a lot of information. These are the two individuals that are on the forefront of what this is and how this can affect just nursery growers. It's basically agriculture, horticulture, and construction. What you need to know for the employer, for the landlord, for your partner, for your coworker, and for the employees. We're going to be diving in. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We're going to start off with you, madam.
Hello, my name is Arianna Cabrera de Onã. I am the Senior Vice President, Chief People Officer, and General Counsel for Costa Farms, which is just a long-winded way of saying I manage people and legal for Costa Farms.
Okay.
I've been with Costa Farms in this industry for 17 years.
17 years. So you're passionate about the industry.
I really am.
And you know a little bit about it.
I know a little bit about it.
And you're my friend?
Yes, I'm Barney Rutzke. I've been in the industry my entire life. My family moved here in 1907 from vegetable farming to tropical fruit farming, now in the nursery industry. And I've worked in all aspects of agriculture, from the fields to management to mechanicking in the shops. So I can understand the heat and all the aspects of it also.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm also president of the Dade County Farm Bureau here and vice president of Dade County FNGLA chapter. And I'm on the Ag Practice Board, which is an advisory board for Miami Dade County on ag issues. And I'm on the Tropical Research and Education Board, advisory board also.
And TREC is with UF, the
Yes,
University of
Florida.
Yeah, if you guys don't know what that is. So you're on a couple boards.
Yes.
Just a few.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Told you he knows a lot.
Congratulations. You guys are awesome. I'm very glad you guys are here today. So I want to start off, guys. We're going to be breaking it down into 4 categories. How did this ordinance come about? What has been proposed in the ordinance? How can this affect our listeners or people in the industry down here in these 3 categories in Miami-Dade County? And what can people do today? So let's start. I wanted to start with, how did this come to pass? How did we get here? If you can enlighten everyone on that.
So this is a heat ordinance proposed in Miami-Dade County. There was a heat ordinance that was proposed several months back by a different commissioner. And once we were able to have some good conversations about, our practices and the fact that OSHA already governs heat standards.
Excuse me.
That was
OSHA, for you guys, just so you know, is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
Correct.
Sorry.
Part of the Department of Labor. It's a federal agency. So once we had those conversations, the heat ordinance, they realized that there was no need for it, and it went away. Very quietly, a new heat ordinance was proposed late in the summer, and it was proposed by Commissioner McGee and Commissioner Bastien. They're the prime co-sponsors on this. And as soon as we in agriculture found out that this had been proposed, and it was actually much worse even than a California style heat ordinance. Once we found that it had been proposed, we mobilized through Farm Bureau, through FNGLA, and a few of us from Costa Farms to go start talking to commissioners to ensure that they knew what was in it. Well, I know we're going to talk in a minute. We're going to talk about what's in it exactly, but just to kind of give you some of the history on here. Honestly, and Barney can back me up on this, we were not able to get in front of commissioners to have these discussions. We would call and make appointments with their offices, and 9 times out of 10, we met with staff who were great and very knowledgeable and, open to hearing what we had to say, but we never had a chance to speak to commissioners. And that's important because one of the things that just blows my mind with all of this is that in the ordinance itself, in the proposed ordinance, in one of the whereas clauses, which is, legal jargon for,
the fine print.
for their explanation as to why we need it, they cited a study that had been conducted by We Count, which is a local labor activist organization. And in that study, they cited the need for this heat ordinance based on 11 interviews that were conducted in 2015 and 300 surveys that were conducted in 2016. Okay.
And these were by people in agriculture, horticulture, construction?
They were actually all people in horticulture specifically.
In horticulture.
Horticulture
so plants.
specifically.
Okay.
So they released a study back in 2018. And again, and I'm emphasizing this because
a long time ago.
It's a long time ago. Yeah. And although, they try to be very slick about it and they say, so it's 4 to 5 years ago. No, 7 and 8 years ago, respectively, we're talking about. So all of this ordinance and all of this concern was based on very old data that did not take into consideration current conditions, current practices, and any of the current oversight that we as in the agriculture and horticulture industry have. So now you've got an ordinance that's proposed that will discriminatorily, I hope I said that right, affect only agriculture and construction, because
agriculture, horticulture, construction.
Does not apply to any other outdoor worker in Miami Dade County.
So it doesn't apply to, let's say, the guy that does irrigation for a living.
No.
So landscaping?
Unless they're doing irrigation on our farms.
So it's only for farmland. So a landscaper will not, this does not affect them.
Correct. So they crafted something that was very specific and very targeted at only two, and I'm going to group agriculture and horticulture together. And never once did anybody call Farm Bureau. I mean, listen, they could have solved 3 phone calls just by calling Barney, right? They could have covered Farm Bureau, FNGLA, TREC, the Ag Advisory Board. They never called, Costa Farms is a pretty large employer down here. They never called us to ask us what was going on.
And to me, it is very pointed because it doesn't, if you think about all the other industries or businesses that are outside, I would think it would be a heat ordinance for the entire Miami-Dade County.
If they really cared, then they would incorporate it for all outdoor workers.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, because it's only for the workers of these categories.
Of these two
which
categories.
doesn't make sense because it should be for everybody in Miami-Dade.
You keep hearing about all these people that have gotten sick from the heat and that have died from the heat. Honestly, there hasn't been anybody that has died. I mean, I think I looked back for the last 5 years or 7 years. I mean, we could go farther back. No one's died from heat. It's
in construction or agriculture.
Okay. Correct.
Again, I'm grouping in horticulture there. The OSHA has not reported any direct deaths, the cause of which was directly attributable to heat. And then there was a death in July on a local farm, and the toxicology and autopsy report from the medical examiner's office did not cite heat as a contributory factor, and neither did OSHA. It was obviously a sad event, right? I mean, and look, and maybe we should have started with this. We really care about our employees.
100%.
This is without our employees, we, as you know, both of you guys know, we don't have anything. And go ahead, Barney.
I was going to say, we already give our employees water. It's already mandated through our worker protection standards, which
through OSHA.
No, OSHA regulates it, but then we have a worker protection standards through the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Service that requires us to have water, requires us to have bathrooms, and they come out and check also. I know plenty of farmers that they've come to the fields and then you don't have your bathrooms. You're shut down until you get a bathroom here right now.
Okay.
And they do that.
Yeah.
And it's already in place.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't make sense for this new heat ordinance when we already have these other two organizations looking over us and OSHA with their fines, because somebody can complain and say, they're not giving us water or something, and they can complain to these organizations and they'll come out and research it and look at us and fine us.
Yeah.
And there's been multiple companies in the area in the last year that have been getting checked.
Yeah, I feel like this industry hasn't changed in a long time. So everything's been put into place that needs to be put into place for a long, long time. I feel like, that's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, this is, it not only is it the right thing to do, right, in terms of the water rest shade, right, which is the premise of
and
the
it is
ordinance.
hot, yeah.
Right, we all recognize that. It's the right thing to do. We do it. And it also makes sense. This is not an easy labor labor market. You know, we all have to be at the top of our game in order to keep, you know,
the employees happy.
The employees happy. There is, you know, it just, again, it's just very surprising, and just not having kind of they need a reality check, you know, as to what is actually going on down here. This is not, you know, the implication that we are not taking care of our people just flies in the face of everything that's rational.
They wouldn't come to work, right? And then it's normal to water, you know, maybe some ice even, you know, water, ice, and give them break. The lunch truck shows up, let them grab food from the lunch truck. Who cares? Have your lunch, take your breaks. However, every nursery does it differently. Some have an hour break at midday. Some do it, you know, periodically throughout the day. They give a 2-hour break throughout the whole day.
Or it's as needed. Our employees, they take, if they got to go to the restroom, they go to the restroom. If they need a drink of water, they go get a drink of water. It's as they need. And
it's normal. I feel like no one's on top of them saying, hey, you can't be going to the bathroom this much, or you can't be going and drinking water this much. It's not that. You know, I feel like a lot of the environments out here are very open, where people can do what they want as long as the job's getting done for the day.
Going back to, you know, how this all came about, that's how it came about. You know, it was kind of, you know, very quiet.
Were these people
very
in
targeted.
The industry? Were these people in the industry that started this?
We count as a labor activist organization. If you look them up online, you know, their mission is to, I guess, speak on behalf of employees in agriculture and construction.
Which is great.
Industries.
I think what they're doing is awesome, because there are industries, or there are certain people that do, you know, treat their employees bad. But as a whole, I don't think it's 100%.
And the county, again, never look. And this is, you know, a bit of irony, but back during COVID, which I think is probably one of the biggest challenges that we faced as an industry all over, right? Not just our industry. The county worked with us so closely in having testing, masks,
6 feet away,
vaccination drives, you know, so much so
education,
and so much so that, you know, when all across the country, farm workers, and it was all over the press, you know, that the farm worker population was being hit disproportionately by the COVID outbreak, the CDC came to Miami-Dade County and they met with us. They toured our facilities and they took back best practices for the rest of the country. And so it was just like, when it made sense for us to work together, we worked together beautifully as an industry with the county. Yeah. In this case, nobody reached out.
Yeah, there hasn't been any practices. No one said how it's supposed to be done.
And nobody asked construction either. Okay. That's been confirmed. How this came about, it was a big old blindside. That's how it came about.
And We Count is more or less being run by an attorney also. Okay. And it seems like it's kind of going that direction. That's another reason for this, because then there can be a lot of lawsuits.
Yeah. So we're going to get into that.
And then, and it seems like there's how it came about too, from that aspect. And at the same time, then you have some labor unions that are involved with them also, that are trying to possibly unionize the industry.
Okay. So talk to us and tell us what is proposed in this ordinance, aside from what we've spoken about, but what's in that fine print that has, you know, most of the people that know about this ordinance upset?
One of the things are the fines. And the fines and the department that the county's going to start is going to be fine-based. Okay. So it's going to be strictly run and paid for by fines. So then that just means the inspector's going to come out. He's going to find something wrong, so they can raise money for their department.
Yeah. So this is one of the really most objectionable parts for us, which is the creation of a new agency or a new office in Miami-Dade County dedicated to the health and welfare. So it's not just heat, right? And so what we start to see is that this can encroach.
Health and welfare.
Yeah.
So where's the heat ordinance
safety,
in that?
Yeah, it's not just, I can't remember now if it's health and safety or health and welfare, welfare of employees in Miami-Dade County. But in any event, it doesn't exist right now. It would be newly formed and funded 100% by fines.
And it will be fines in the agriculture, horticulture, and construction industries only. When there's a bunch of other industries that are outside labor as well.
And so what happens is that right now, we'll say, is that really that bad? Well, look, first of all, OSHA already does this, right? And OSHA has a set of rules in place that we all follow, that we all know what they are, and they have to give us notice, for example, before they come onto our properties. In this, there is none of that. Oh, wow. So what it opens up really, and I think what's most concerning, and which should be concerning
to everybody.
people listening to this is that now the county would have the unfettered right to come onto our properties, presumably under heat, but they could be looking for all kinds of other things, because this would open the door to an expansion there. It's so unclear, but what we don't want that door to open. I mean, we've got
They could
OSHA
start
in place.
regulating every other aspect of our business. They could come on, they say they're coming in to look at heat. They could see an issue, or see when you're a tractor driver, someone driving a tractor, they're like, I think I need to start regulating the tractor driving. They need licenses to drive the tractors, or this or that.
Yeah, it's open doors.
Yes.
What are some of the reasons people can get fines based off this new ordinance?
Yeah, so the fines are based on, the proposed ordinance says you have to have a heat plan in place, which we do already. We need to have that in place for OSHA.
Which is just water.
Well,
No.
water rest,
rest.
and shade, right?
Yeah.
We, under the general welfare clause of
Okay.
OSHA, we have to provide break rooms, and so this would mandate having this, and then having a mandatory 10-minute break every 2 hours.
That's paid for.
Yes, having a enough shade area, as it's described, so that every person on your work site could stand without touching each other. So it's pretty specific on infrastructure there. It applies to every outdoor environment, including people working under pole
Shade
barn,
house or
for
pole barn?
example.
Okay.
Yeah, that do have cover from
The sun.
from the sun. It has a very specific range on the temperature of the water. So when you
Of the heat.
of
Of
the
the water.
Water.
of the water. So when you ask, how are the fines imposed? The fines are imposed because if they can come and test your water, and if it's 1 degree off, fines of ranging from $1,000 to $3,000 per person.
They have a very specific, what
Range.
is it 70?
It's 35 to 77.
77.
So I mean, under 35 is basically ice.
Right.
But
So at least 77 degrees.
a maximum of 77 degrees.
Okay.
And then some other aspects of that is you have to verbally tell the people every
yes.
2 hours. And every 2
You
hours.
have to verbally tell them.
And if you don't
Remind them to drink water.
drink water, take a break and drink water. And you could get fined if you don't,
If you don't tell them.
don't tell them.
So that's physically calling every single individual on staff, letting them know that they have to stop and drink
you
water.
actually have to have enough supervision so that you've got a supervisor per 20 employees that would be there to tell them that physically.
So for every 20 employees, you got to have a supervisor now in place to be able to tell them they need to drink water, which is something that they obviously know to drink water.
So
and if I'm not mistaken, you can get a fine for not telling them to drink water. Is that correct?
that is correct. If you don't, if you don't have that reminder in place, and look, and one of the outcomes of all of this that we see is that you're going to be creating a pretty antagonistic environment, right? Where it becomes very easy for an employee, because there's just so many problems with this.
In the fine print.
There's no due process. So, which means that once the fine is imposed, there's no appeal process.
You can't appeal it.
You cannot appeal it. So, of course,
What are the fines ranging in?
between $1,000 and $3,000 per person.
So if
Per
you
employee.
have 10, say you have 10 people working in the field, let's just say a $2,000 fine. So that's going to be 2,000 times those 10 employees.
Yeah, so guys, listen to this.
$20,000.
So every day you have to tell them every 2 hours to drink water. If you skip one time because you had a vacation planned, or your wife got sick, or now you're in the hospital, now you have your whole staff that can sue you on top of getting a fine just because you didn't tell them to drink water. And that's how it works. And you were also saying, which that is not fair in my opinion, you were also saying that if your coworker,
Yes.
talk
earlier,
about the coworker.
Everybody's liable on this. So even your coworker working with you, say someone's getting heat exhaustion. If you don't recognize that and report it, then you could actually fall as a potentially liable for that person also.
So you can get sued. So
and it goes all the way to the landowners, all the way down the line from employees to supervisors, owners, landowners, and so on.
So everybody can get sued across the board.
Everybody can get sued, and look, and this is an extension of liability. And I think that, I can get really technical on this, but I'm going to keep it very simple, which is right now you're responsible for your employees.
When they're here.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your employees. This creates an expansion of liability on both ends, right? Meaning that now you're responsible not only for your employees, but any potential subcontractors or farm labor contractors that come on you hire somebody to put up additional shade They're the experts, right? You hire, you're responsible for them also.
Just like construction. A lot of construction is
subcontracting. Yeah.
So
it expands that liability downward, and then it, as you mentioned, expands the liability upward, because now it's not just, me as a supervisor or me as a direct farm manager, let's call it, but it's the owners. They could be silent owners.
The landlord.
The landlord. So everybody
crazy.
along the chain gets liability.
So if you get a fine, then you're going to be put into a public database, then that would allow for that to happen.
Attorneys.
Yes, attorneys to get a hold of, and they just put everybody on notice.
So you
and it expressly gives an additional cause of action, so a new way to sue. Right. So, if you're a bad actor out there and you're an employer and you're negligent, right, grossly negligent for how you treat your employees, there's already a cause of action available. And there are retaliation causes of action. There are like lots of ways as employers that we can already get sued. This creates additional ways that we can get sued.
Do you think there's a reason why it's targeting our industries? Do they want nurseries and farmers down here in Miami-Dade County? They want us out of here. And construction workers, because it makes it almost impossible for a peaceful working place, because you can, if it can be a battle zone at the end of the day.
The organization that's pushing it, and I think it's for attorneys. It benefits attorneys for the lawsuits and unionizing the workforce.
Do you think that organization that's doing this, do you think that they know the effects of what this will cause to this strong, powerful, impactful, wonderful, beautiful industry? And the construction industry?
I don't believe the politicians for sure don't.
Okay.
Because they're making themselves look good, feel good by trying to pass something that we already have rules in place for. And no, I don't think they realize I don't even think the politicians read it all the way through before it got proposed.
Okay.
They did not understand how it would, or even think about how it would affect us.
Because this is
and they didn't ask us.
They didn't ask. This is like a noose on the throat.
I'm like, man, everybody has my phone number.
I told McGee, he came to one of the ag practice board meetings unannounced, and I told him, you didn't talk to anyone. I'm president of Farm Bureau. I know every farmer in the area because I grew up here, and you did not talk to anyone. He couldn't answer it, so he just danced around it.
I see that you guys are very passionate about it, and me as well. I've born and raised out here, 17 years with Costa. You your whole life, fourth generation, 1905, 1907. So these guys are very credible in just their passion behind it and why they feel a certain way. It's not fair to the community at the end of the day. We're just trying to make it happen. We have the economy against us. We have competition against us. We have price hikes against us. We have labor shortages against us. We have so many things up against us, and now we're getting slapped with something else that could potentially.
This one just felt like
this can sink the ship.
This one, and look, and it felt personal, because it's like you're taking the word of one organization that we don't care about our people.
Yeah,
come on,
and no one knows
that,
too.
That we are we're upset. We take it personally because we do. Yeah. Every day.
No, and you can go and everyone has a smile. You can go to any nursery here and say hi to the guy that's attending you, and I guarantee you he'll have a smile on his face. And that's just how it is out here.
And real quick, the statistics that they keep quoting about people getting sick from the heat or having heat exhaustion or deaths or any of that, go look and see where that's from. It's a lot of people from the city. It's the people from out of town that are not used to our heat.
To the heat.
It's not the elderly who might not have air conditioning.
That aren't working even in agriculture.
And the tourists, they just happen to be in Miami-Dade County. You got to look at the details, but it's not our employees in the area.
No, our employees would come up to us and say, "Hey, boss, I'm it's too hot."
Right.
It's too hot. Can I work from 7 to 12 and then I'll come back at 5 and I'll work at night? Or they'll figure it out. They'll
take a break. Go sit down, have your water.
Yeah, exactly. No one's gonna say you have to keep working. It's not like that out here at all.
Yeah, this is
a very loving industry.
It is a loving industry, and look, and Barney just alluded to it. They have a passion, or they feel a passion for why this is needed. Our big problem is that, again, they didn't talk to us.
Yeah, we haven't. You guys haven't communicated amongst each other.
Yeah, and number two, the facts are getting distorted.
Yeah.
And so for example, there was a health committee meeting on September 11th, and they organized a shrine, a memorial to the 19 people that had died from heat. If you looked at that, wow, you would be like, wow, what a big problem this is. Oh my God, of course we have to solve this. Of course. However, when you Googled the people, only one was from Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
So that is that to me is misconstruing.
And it
facts.
was from Heat.
That part, we didn't have access to those
But that was
medical
just
reports.
Miami-Dade County. It wasn't one of the workers from the industry, was it?
Well, there was one worker, the gentleman who I mentioned at the very beginning.
Recently.
Who,
Okay.
yeah, that gentleman was within that group. It was either 17 or 19 people. But the other, either 16 or 18 people, were not from Miami-Dade County. Many of them weren't, most of them weren't even from Florida. They were from Nevada, New Mexico, and California.
Which there it gets 105, 110 degrees.
But that's not what's being talked about. That's not what's being disclosed. And
Yeah.
so that's the part that we just feel like, hey, we need to get out there. And that's what we have been doing, is to get out there and try and get some of the facts out. And at the same time, sitting down with them and asking for what's the need? Like,
Yeah.
what are we solving for real?
Yeah. No, I feel like it should be everybody. They want to do something impactful for the employees. I'm all for it 100%. Come talk to the people that lead the industry. Go talk to the owners. Go talk to the people in the industry. Let's go have a meeting. Let's do a parade. We could talk to every single person and get their opinion from the employees and see how something can be created that is already created, which is OSHA, but maybe just tweaked a little bit for today's standards. So we talked about what's in the bill. Is there anything else you want to talk about that's in the ordinance?
To lay it all out, there was a revised ordinance that was put out there right before the health committee meeting on September 11th. There were some changes made there. We had a kind of a crazy sunshine meeting where we were just kind of forced to throw out numbers and do like a quick negotiation. However, not truly agreeing to it. Right? Something was put out. There were improvements in that version. However, there were discussions where even that was all put into doubt. Yeah, like we're almost there. So I just wanted to, there was some headway made.
But you guys haven't seen it in writing.
We have seen it.
You have seen it in writing?
But we don't know that they're standing behind it.
Okay.
So
one thing we never talked about is what is considered high heat for the ordinance.
That's an important
change
point
as well, correct?
That was one of the points that were changed, but that was one of the points that were kind of backtracked.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they were backtracking on that one.
So
Can you explain that real quick? Because it's not Fahrenheit. It's not the temperature of your thermometer.
It's the heat index.
Right.
Which is different than your thermometer,
It
guys.
can
90-degree heat index was what was in the original ordinance.
right, which it could be maybe 78 degrees out, and you can have that index met because of our high humidity. When you take temperature plus humidity and combine them, it causes a higher heat index. So you could say have 7. I don't know my numbers.
Your math 100%.
Math.
It was somewhere between 78 and 80 degrees. And
So if it's 80
Yes.
degrees outside, you're still over the heat index,
You
and
can
you
be
still
over
have
the
to do
heat
this
index.
process,
Usually with our high humidity here, yes.
which is 10 months out of the year.
Yeah, it's most of the year. And so as part of this negotiation,
Technically, it could happen at night here.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
so as part of this negotiation, we changed that to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, so a straight temperature. But again, that was being backtracked.
95
so
straight temperature.
At
Yeah,
this
because
point,
normally
we're not
it's
sure where that would land.
it's 85, between 85 and 90, 8 months out of the
Normally,
year.
right.
Normally.
And look, and that's, again, a lot of just misinformation. When they talk about, NOAA or the National whatever Weather Service, the NWS, calling that a high heat index, there's a big difference between spending most of your year in Colorado, let's say, right, which is a very temperate climate, and obviously going into the very cold climate. When you hit a 90-degree heat index, that's like, wow, oh my God, like this is, that happens very rarely there. In our case, that happens almost every day,
Daily.
right? So even the ordinance itself has this concept of acclimatization in it, right? Which again makes sense when you're in an environment that heat hardly ever happens. Here we are almost naturally
All the time.
acclimated to that kind of heat. So that's kind of where the fight is over the heat index versus the
That's
temperature.
one of the things that you guys
That's
are
one
trying
of
to
the
work on
things.
to change.
Yes, but I'm going to tell you where we are now. If you're ready to move to that
100%.
point, I just wanted to say kind of where we are today, right?
Yes.
Which is that once that passed out of the health committee, we mobilized and formed a coalition with the construction industry. And again, this came at everybody as a pretty big surprise. So we have formed a coalition. We got a loose coalition.
So it's other associations, but now in the construction world.
Correct.
Okay.
So there are, 7 organizations, 2 of them from...
Who are they? Can you say which associations they are?
If I remember them. So BASF, CASF, ABC, AGC, and then the engineering ECA, which is the engineering contract.
Also FNGLA.
Yeah.
Florida
and then
Farm
FNGLA
Bureau.
And Florida Farm Bureau.
And Costa. You're not an association, but you're part of
Farm
FNGLA.
Bureau and FNGLA.
Okay.
Yes.
So for you guys listening, these are 7, 8 massive associations in Dade County that are also all over the state, but let's say specifically here in Dade County, that have come together to try to work on what they can do to combat it. And yet it hasn't been, you guys haven't had a one-on-one with this organization that has proposed it.
We have had a one-on-one.
You have.
And what we have proposed and what our position is that we stand behind education and training and not behind a new agency. And new regulations and again, this new agency funded by fines.
No.
So that what we're fighting for now is let's turn this into an education and training program. And
which I feel would be great.
And they do not want that.
They don't want that.
No.
But I feel like that's what you would start. You got to give people a chance. So you start with educating. Everyone needs to get certified, or everyone needs to take, let's say, a class, a video, something, 2 hours of whatever it is on an email that's blasted out. Then now you can watch it, and now you learn, and you got to get a paper signed that all your employees watched it, so they understand. Just like we have that for pesticides, we do that every single year.
Yep, the
That's
WPS.
correct.
Every year it has to happen. So that's already in place for that. There should be something in place for this if this is something that is so major.
But and that's where is the need? They still haven't proven a good need for it.
And that's a great point, right? Is to take some time to figure out what is the actual
Why?
need. What are the conditions?
No, where are the employees that are
That are
screaming up
dying
at the top of their lungs, hands up, hey, this is horrible, I'm being treated like this? I don't know. I employ a decent amount of people, and I have never had that happen. If they need hats, they get hats. Yeah, you want the cool shirts, the ones that cool your body?
Yeah,
whatever
exactly.
you want. Let's make it happen. I know it's hot out there. I'm out there all day too. So it's crazy.
Yeah, so that's where we are in this battle. And, this will come before the Board of Commissioners at some point. And so getting into, what we can do. The most important thing that we need people to do is call their commissioners.
Okay.
And before, the only voices that were being heard were the We Count voices and the labor, organization.
They were the ones
voices.
calling.
And they need to call every single commissioner and ask them to vote no on the heat ordinance.
Okay, we have a list, guys, that's been provided. We're gonna probably, Eddie, you think we could put that down in the bio or down underneath in the description? Every single commissioner's number and name,
number, and email addresses. And I know we're a text and email kind of society, but the phone calls matter.
Yeah.
Like, take the time. At this point, they're asking just for, are you opposed or for it?
For it.
So it shouldn't take you more than 25 minutes to call
all of them.
All of them. It's really important to get those phone calls out. The second thing that we'll, put in the
description,
is a link for a petition. That is something that, we do have commissioners that are standing behind us, right? And that see this for what it is. And so I think that for them, it's important to see the amount of support that this opposition has.
Yeah.
It's kind of a double negative.
Yeah.
For them to understand that the people are opposed to this.
Yeah, that there's a large amount of people that are against it. Yeah, because this, at the end of the day, is catastrophic for this industry, and it'll drive a lot of people out of this industry. People are paycheck to paycheck. Most, I would say 50% of the industry is struggling right now. Rents went up, everything.
Yeah.
But
And now you throw this on top.
as owners of businesses, if we're going to get sued just because someone's upset, or they get,
we didn't call them every 2 hours,
right? And then they turn us in. Then we get the fines for that many people in the field. And then you get the lawsuits. Who wants to stay in business in Miami-Dade County when you have that happening?
No one will.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're a landscaper and you're kind of sitting there being like, I'm good, they're next.
You're next, guys.
And
it's not just that,
not
but
where
look,
it's gonna end.
No, but this is how it affects. So how does it affect you? So you're a landscaper. How does it affect you? I'm good. I don't have any worries. Yeah, you do, because where are you going to buy the plants to make the installs?
They're going to be more expensive.
Where are you going to get them at? That's
or
one thing
where
to think
you're
about.
gonna get them, yeah.
So that's something to think about too. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I'm good, call for your buddy that has a nursery that you love him, that you guys have a great relationship, that you buy the product off of him. Call for him and make that happen.
Yeah, agriculture and construction are, two of the biggest industries in this county.
Florida, yeah.
So again, everybody should care about this. Everybody should care about
this. Yeah, because it can put a halt on. It'll put a halt on construction, which good and bad for some people, depending on what side you sit on. But they could put a massive.
But it drives our economy.
It can put a massive halt.
And then why is it just these two industries? Why? It's very discriminatory. because of just being agriculture and construction.
Yeah, there's a lot of other industries. You're a car wash, you do the car detailing, boat detailing. There's an array. You're a fisherman. Now you got to make sure you look over to Chip, that's there baiting the line for you and tell him, hey, give me some water or drink some water. It's discriminatory towards these two industries.
And one other point to make is that OSHA is actively addressing new standards or revised standards, let's say, for heat that would apply nationwide. Like, just let OSHA do their jobs.
Do you guys know if there's these ordinances in other states like Arizona, like Texas, that get way hotter than we do?
It's either 6 or 7 states that have them, and I'm going to rattle off a few of them. Washington State, California, Nevada, Minnesota, and I think New Mexico. So generally Western states, and all of those states work together with their local OSHA. So they don't have a regulatory scheme or the fine structure that this has. They piggyback off of the already existing OSHA fines.
Yeah. So what I love about this is there's a lot of you guys involved that are really high ups, and all these organizations that are, fighting against this for us. Guys, they're fighting against it for these industries. They're basically our voice that's out there trying to make it right. It's like we're not against it 100%, but we are against all these fine print things that do not make any sense, and we already have things implemented. So I'm just very glad that we have people like you that have dedicated so much time, because you guys, I'm sure you dream about this at this point. But,
They're not called dreams,
exhausted. Though. Yeah, they're not dreams. You don't dream.
They're called nightmares.
They're called nightmares. Of just all of this stuff and how this can just really ratify the whole industry and the whole county. I don't think they understand to what extent it can be taken, and how drastic of ordinance it is when you read the fine print. And we all love our employees. We want our employees to thrive. We want them to be landlords one day and own real estate and climb up the ladder.
And they got to buy plants.
we love it. But it can't be done if there's walls that are bigger than we can climb put in front of us. It's easier to just cash out and leave, and it will put a lot of people out of business. I see that.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's just a form of control, and coming in and looking over your shoulder. It's like Big Brother just watching everything you do. And next time they're going to be telling us how to go to the bathroom. For me, the commissioners, it's like, guys, you guys worked so hard to make Miami-Dade County what it is today, to get the richest people from all over the world to come to Miami and start up their business. We have Amazon here. We have so much going on, so much power. You have people doing high rises. We have $1 billion bridge being built. And now you want to do this that's going to really, and construction and agriculture? I mean, agriculture did $36.4 billion last year in the state of Florida, and a lot of it came from here.
It's a bad look for the county.
But it's like we take 20 steps up, and then now we get hit 19 back. Same thing with what happened with the labor. It's like, come on, guys, wake up, smell the coffee. This is not good, in my opinion.
No,
but
agreed.
You're spot on.
We're with you. We're with you.
So if you guys want, who is the lead commissioner or person that would actually, let's say, at the top of all of this when it comes to signing the bill?
So Commissioner McGee, who happens to be the commissioner, I think, for this area.
Have you talked to Commissioner McGee?
Sort of.
You have? Would you like to tell Mr. McGee?
No, listen, is
there something you would like to say to them?
With all of the commissioners, what I'd like to ask is inform yourself. Give yourself the time and the space to talk to not just We Count. Talk to people in construction, talk to people in agriculture. Understand this is a knee-jerk reaction to a very emotional issue. Okay, somebody says, how can you be against it? I had this conversation with my kids, by the way. Mom, what are you fighting? And it's more nuanced than that. It's not just about providing water, rest, and shade. We can all agree to that. We all agree to that. This is much more nuanced. But that tagline of water, rest, and shade, that's all that's being spoken about. That's all that they are taking in.
That's the
and
headline.
So
it's all that they're promoting.
Yeah. So my appeal is, please inform yourself. It's not as simple as it sounds.
There's millions of people in these industries that you can talk to. Would you have something you would like to say to them?
Just understand how it's going to affect businesses that already take care of their employees. And any bad actors out there, there's already an avenue to turn them in and to get to bring them in line. So it's just there's really no need for this new heat ordinance.
Yeah. And if I had something to say, it would be educate. Educate, not just yourselves, but educate the people in the industry. And let's start with that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This was great.
This was awesome.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. A lot of information was spoken about here. Like she said in the description below, you're going to get all the numbers. If you guys really feel like you want to fight against this, or if you don't, you can reach out to all the commissioners there. Call the phone numbers. It takes about 20-25 minutes to do so. All you got to do is tell them, hey, I'm calling in regards to the heat ordinance, and I would like for the commissioner to vote no against it or yes for it, whatever it is. But do your due diligence. Like I said, if you have a friend, a buddy that is affected, that could be affected by this, reach out, share the episode, blast it out, let people know that this is actually going down. It could be the 17th or it could be further prolonged. But regardless, it's something that you have to call because not too many people know about it. It's kind of been on the hush, and now it's trying to, ramp it up so everyone knows, get momentum. So share this with all your nursery buddies, all your landscape buddies, all your friends in the industry, and do your part. Because if it passes, it means you guys didn't do your part. So
call the commissioners.
Call the commissioners. Complain. No. Call every day.
Every day.
No
limit on how many times.
If you have 100 employees, have them sit down one day and just call all day. Guys, God bless. Stay tuned. You already know our next episode is going to be fire. We're going to keep bringing you guys relevant content. All right, for the green industry. God bless you guys. Have an awesome day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this edition of The Plant Movement. Willie and Eddie invite you to connect with them on Instagram at both The Plant Movement Podcast and A's Ornamental Nursery. Those links are in the show description. Please leave us a well-worded 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help others find the show. And remember to tap the follow button so that you'll be notified when the next edition of The Plant Movement is available.